Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. The curious case of the missing opposition in Russia seems to be getting deeper. Days after Putin critic Alexei Navalny's death, Russian chess grandmaster Gary Kasparov has now been added to the country's list of terrorists and extremists. Ranked the youngest world champion at 22 years of age back in 1985, Kasparov held the title until his retirement in 2005. But it's not just for chess that Kasparov is known for. Gary Kasparov has been vocal about his critical views on Vladimir Putin. From demanding fair elections to criticizing Russia's attack on Ukraine, he has earlier already been branded a foreign agent by the Putin government. He left Russia in 2013, fearing prosecution. Kasparov, in fact, also set up the Anti-War Committee of Russia in February 2022, which was deemed an undesirable organization by the Russian government. Remember, Kasparov is not the first to be ostracized by Putin. There's a long list of Putin critics who have either been allegedly killed, are in jail, or have been forced to live in exile. And therefore, the question is, in his 24 years of rule, has crushing dissent become the hallmark and legacy of Vladimir Putin? Let's understand more of what is going on in Russia and what really means for Putin's critics if they voice their opinion in Russia. I'm joined on the broadcast by Pathikrit Payne. He's a geopolitical analyst. I'm also joined by former Ambassador Suresh Goyal. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. Let me start with you, Pathikrit. What do you make of this, Pathikrit? Really, you know, it's just been a few weeks since Alexei Navalny's death. There's still speculation on how he died. And now we have this man, perhaps one of the greatest chess masters that the world has seen, that Russia has seen, being labeled as a terrorist for being against Putin and his policies.
Good evening, Shreya, and good evening to Ambassador Goyal. Shreya, it's a very important and a complex issue, and the answers may not be in binaries. Kasparov has got all the accolades of the world. He has been showered with all the love and affection by, I'm sure, by his own country for being a great player. But if you look at it from the perspective of geopolitics, it's a very complex game going on in the entire region, where unfortunately we have seen from the West for a long time the whole culture and the concept of regime change activities have been going on, and against the backdrop of a war which started 2 years back. A war which was absolutely avoidable, a war which was necessitated because Ukraine wanted to be part of NATO, and invariably that would have meant a major missile base of NATO in the backyard of Russia, something Russia would not have accepted and agreed to, and something US would not have agreed to if something had come up in Canada and Mexico. So against that kind of a situation, I think nobody can say that Russia is a great and a pure democracy. But against the backdrop of the systematic, attempts by the West to bring about a regime change, to project Russia as an enemy. Remember, if I am not entirely mistaken, in the early days of Russia, after the breakup of USSR, it wanted to be part of NATO, and it wanted the dismantling of the NATO, and if not, it wanted to be part of NATO, but it was not allowed. So in that kind of a scenario where a war is going on, if somebody like a Kasparov, who is allegedly right now in the United States, and asks, the American dispensation to strongly back Kyiv for this war, then invariably, whether somebody likes Putin or not, that country would have all the necessary rights to take action, to project this man as either a fugitive or a foreign agent, which may not be politically correct, but there are very little options left. I reiterate, it is not the best of the democracy, no one can say, though it is a great ally of India, and therefore most in India would be very, very hesitant to criticize, including me, because there are strong points of Russia also. But the West has also not been very clean when it comes to playing the games of regime change. As things stand today, Shreya, my last point, it is very difficult to imagine a strong Russia without Vladimir Putin. And therefore, there is a concerted effort going on from the West for a long time to overthrow him, either directly or indirectly.
But
and in that kind of a scenario,
why is it needed to have a strong leader, to have your critics be silenced or in extreme cases be allegedly killed as well. You can be a strong nation and you can have a strong leadership despite having dissent, and that's what a flourishing democracy is. But Ambassador Goyal, Pathikrit saying that yes, the transition of power has not been smooth, that it is not the perfect democracy, but the West has not been a saint as well. But the numbers clearly show otherwise. There are numbers saying that in December last year, 13,647 people were in the list of Russia's terrorists and extremists. And out of them, 11,286 were labeled as terrorists. Some of them were under 18. 680 political prisoners are there in Russia currently. That number has been increasing. Clearly, the numbers show otherwise. The fact of the matter is that, yes, the voice of dissent is being crushed.
Shreya, first of all, being a diplomat, I don't think I can take a moralist point of view. I would take a real political point of view here. Whether I like it or not, the fact is that we deal with the real power politics in different countries. We look at how leaders survive, what they need to do to survive. And I don't think there is any country which is an exception to this power game, really. And therefore, I'm going to get away from moralizing on what is happening in Russia and look at it from the real political point of view. Now, the fact is, please do recall what happened in 1991. Gorbachev, Soviet Union broke up. He was followed by Yeltsin, very, very weak power center in Moscow. Since then, Putin is the first strong leader who has come to reassert Russia again, and he's trying to reclaim the same glory of Russia as it was in Soviet Union. Please do remember that Ukraine is not just a symbol of NATO versus or capitalism versus communism. Ukraine is also the symbol of assertion of the Soviet Union power. To say that Crimea was ours, Ukraine is ours, and anybody who says otherwise better face the Russian wrath. Therefore, I may be completely sounding immoral, but the fact is, Putin does consider that his survival is important for Russia. I'm reminded of our own countries in many respects from different times. Therefore, for Putin, anybody who challenges him is not just his enemy, but he is out to disintegrate Russia. Wrong or right is a different matter altogether. But the fact is that for the West also, the real enemy is Putin. Till Putin continues, and therefore they declare Putin as unwarranted or to be arrested in different countries wherever he visits them. UK has announced this also. But the fact is, Putin will consider everybody
therefore,
who opposes him.
Do you think, Pathikrit, this is more of a, personal, I don't know, victory, if you want to call it, or achievement for Putin, to have less and less dissenters and more of people who applaud him and praise him and his policies and the actions that the government takes in Russia?
Shreya, I think in this particular case, Kasparov has been out of the country since 2013. So all that has been done is to put him on some kind of a monitoring by Rosfin, monitoring that's the organization. I don't think, that would imply that there will be restrictions on his banking transactions.
Pathikrit. 2013, he went out of Russia for the fear of prosecution there in Russia.
Well, so if you want to challenge a strong leader, you have to stay back in your country and you fight it out through democratic means. That's what happens in many other countries in India. And let me tell you, I am not trying to take a moral view on everything.
But when you have cases like Navalny and other cases earlier as well, I think it's very difficult.
No, Shreya. So let me say this. The kind of situation that has been put into by, the kind of situation that Russia faces is unprecedented, the kind of pressure from the West all the time. And let me tell you why I have a problem with the West. The West has also not been a champion of free speech all the time. Number one, if you see the way what they're doing with Julian Assange, the way they are hounding Julian Assange for the WikiLeaks thing, the way they have banned Russia Today channel and Sputnik channel in the whole of Europe, Western Europe, time since the war started, because they didn't want the Russian version to go to the Europeans. Third, if you look at this Tucker Carlson interview of Putin, which was aired in YouTube,
I
and
agree
that
with you,
created
Pathikrit. I
a
agree with
lot
you
of
when you
shiver.
say that, yes.
So
No,
my
I
contention
absolutely
is
agree
this:
with
we
you when
can.
you say that, West. No, but let's talk about
Yeah. So the
Russia
only thing I'm saying
in
is that.
separation from the West. Let's leave the West. I understand your point and I absolutely agree with what you're saying, but let's talk about Russia in a separate sense, The numbers don't say it. The cases are very evident there.
Yes. So, that's how, the countries have survived for a long time. Purely, if you call me selfish, so be it. If you look at it from the Indian perspective, if India has to have a very strong ally, it has to be Russia. If Russia has to be strong, it has to be Putin, backed by Putin and Putin at the helms. And so long as Putin would be there would be,
Okay.
attempts by the West to dethrone him. It would create a dirty scenario. We are seeing it. Whether we have the right to take a moral stand, I don't know. I will not take for selfish reason that as an Indian, there are strong relation with Russia, and it is very difficult to take a moral stand against a situation of the West, where the number of people the West has killed and the way things are happening all across. It's unfortunate, but that's how real politics, as Ambassador Goel said, is, and that's the reality.
Okay, Ambassador Goel, you wanted to make a point. Please go ahead, and then I'll wrap this up.
Very briefly, Shreya, please do recall, Putin was a KGB head before he became the president. He knows how to fight a battle. And he's fighting a battle for his own survival. And I think that is more than what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, we'll leave it there. Pathikrit Payne and Suresh Goel, thank you very much to both you gentlemen for speaking on Mirror Now about this absolutely, concerning situation in Russia. And of course, we'll have to see how Putin leaves behind his legacy. So far, it seems like crushing of dissent is going to be one of them. Thank you very much to both of you. All right, let's move